This video is going to show how to use a program to create a BitTorrent to share a file from one computer to another. I'll be making use of the program Vuze. So let's go ahead and start the application on the computer I'm sitting at. What we'll be doing is selecting a video file and loading it into the application and then publishing the file such that it can be shared with other users on the internet. Once the application is open, you're going to need to make sure that you have the mode set to at least intermediate. It usually starts at beginner. You're going to want to change to intermediate in order to publish files. Click Save and then Close. Now from the File menu, you will have a choice for sharing a file. Navigate to where you have stored some captured video files and select one of them. Notice a little pop-up window down here as it prepares the file. The file is now loaded and is ready to be shared using the application. The next thing is to publish the file such that client applications can download the file. Now the file is located in my tracker and is ready for sharing. Right-click on the tracker identity and copy the torrent URL so that you can share it with someone who will then download the file. I'm going to stuff this into an email back to myself, which I can then access on a remote computer. Notice that the IP for my computer is shown here. You'll have to determine that when you set up your computer to share files. And I'm using a port 6969 to communicate the file through the tracker. I'll come back to those points in a moment. Okay, now I'm going to move to a remote computer that I happen to have access to, and I've got my Google Mail open. You can see that the mail I just sent has shown up in my inbox. It shows up as a link in the email message. When I select it, it's going to try to open the torrent file. I'm going to say that I'd like to open it with the Vuze application. And that can be configured to always do so automatically once you've got it installed on your system. Now the torrent file triggers opening Vuze and it loads the torrent information and immediately starts downloading the file. If I select the file and ask it to show details, I can see such information as the bitmap of file pieces. Here they all are, still waiting to make contact with the server. Once they make contact with the server, all these squares will turn to 1, meaning that there is one source for each of these file bits, and then it'll begin downloading them. There you go, it's made contact. It's downloading all the pieces of the file and then going to compile them back together into the video file that we were transferring. So that's pretty much all there is to it, from the server side to load the file and publish it, and then from a client on the remote computer to using a download link to the tracker and then downloading the file onto the remote computer. Now, one piece of information that you want to check with networking is, I'm going to go back to the computer that was sharing the file now. Under Tools, Options, you will find that 2 port numbers are important. First of all, as the tracker, when you are the server, the one serving the file to the internet, there is a tracker port number which by default comes up to 6969. There is also a connection port number, and it will come up to some other default number, and you can change that to various numbers. 56789 is a fine number. Here's a link to help you make good choices of port numbers. But each of these numbers, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 6969 must be open on your local router for port forwarding. So this is my Netgear router, and under the section for port forwarding I have set up 2 port forwarding services, one for ports 56789 and one for port 6969. How you configure this with your network gear may differ from what's shown here, but the premise and the idea of port forwarding is pretty common. Lastly, your server is likely going to have a different IP address on the internet than what it does on your local area network. You can use this Auto Discover External IP Address button to query the network to self-identify and then find out your IP address externally. Mine is 50.184.2.221, and if we look at the email that was sent to the prospective downloader, you will notice that the link reflects that number, 50.184.2.221, and the tracker port number 6969 is also shown in the URL. So that should be all you need in order to make use of Vuze to exchange large files.